It's hard to believe that 6 years have gone by, but here we are at the end of our last year in elementary school. As a class, we've been remembering these years and would like to share some of the highlights with you.
8 of the present 16 students began kindergarten together. Brittany, Ian, Tanner, Jake, Elijah, Christian, Dominic, and myself. Our first teachers were Mrs. Schmidt and Miss Champion. Some of the highlights were dressing up for the 100th day of school, inspirational afternoons with Mrs. Ferd, dancing around the maypole at Shakespeare, and receiving awards with alphabet letters at kindergarten graduation. We also had lots of cool field trips, such as Jammock Farms and the fire station. Getting to hold the fire hose was awesome.
In first grade, Taylor joined us. We had Mrs. Seligman and Mrs. Sexton, even more cool field trips. We went to Tohono Chul Park where we saw rattlesnakes and Gila monsters, and picking out red, blue, and purple pumpkins at the pumpkin patch were the most memorable field trips. Other highlights included reading buddies, watching the Polar Express and Slippers, and sipping hot cocoa, and wild games of kickball and capture the flag with Mr. Scheck-Snyder.
Mrs. Mason and Mrs. Brobeck led us expertly through the second grade. We were excited when Braden and Grace joined our class. We remembered the gentle way Mrs. Brobeck read the Bible, sitting crisscross applesauce during Read Aloud with Mrs. Mason, reading buddies with 5th grade, and dressing in character for book reports. The Martin Luther King play was a big deal for us. It was the first time we actually memorized and performed a play. And then there were the parties, especially the end of the year party. We went bowling and Ian knocked over a bumper.
Next, we had Mrs. Leone and Mrs. Holston as our 3rd grade teachers. Our class also grew up by 3 more friends, Kaylee, Zach, and Trevor. In 3rd grade, we went around the world in our history lessons. We enjoyed a variety of activities such as our country reports and henna hand, drawing and flying kites at the Asian Festival. Unfortunately, there was no wind that year. We flew kites, it was so frustrating. But we read the snowy day on the day it snowed. We remember the whole grass area being covered in snow. Mrs. Leone was really into science, so we did a tsunami experiment and got to feed the animals behind the scenes at the Reed Park Zoo. Finally, who can forget Mrs. Leone doing the pipe dance?
We focused on ancient civilizations with Mrs. Walker and Mrs. Kropp in 4th grade. Gracie joined us that year, and we enjoyed history, especially making mummies and sugar cube pyramids for Walk Like an Egyptian Day. We also enjoyed the tug of war, the chariot races, and food for the Greek festival. Mrs. Dow took us around the world in art and had an Artist of the Week for Shakespeare. For Shakespeare, we had more parts and more responsibility. We remember the Valentine's Day project about love, the field trip to Mount Lemmon, and the end of the year pool party with the water slides and high dive. The year ended with the class sitting on the floor and guessing what award our teacher would make for each of us.
This year, our class was made complete with the addition of our newest friend, Evan. Mrs. Bergendorf took us to ancient Rome through the time of the barbarians, the Vikings, and the knights. She tried to teach the boys how to be chivalrous and how to treat a lady. We built castles and went to the Renaissance Festival. We were so in the Middle Ages that during one episode of the story of Rolf and the Viking bow, the class became really mad because of the injustice done to the main character. Then, to break the spell, Elijah made the comment at the right moment and sent the class into laughter.
We even get to share some of what we've learned in an Armor of God chapel last week. We also can't forget making people laugh and performing on the main stage during Shakespeare. And over the last few weeks, we've experienced the Oregon Trail as the pioneers did in the 1800s. And although some wanted to, none of us died of cholera during the way. We've enjoyed our years here at Cornerstone and have many fond memories that we will take with us forever.